Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and Season 4 is underway, and I wanted to drop a Fury Warrior PvP video, cover some of the top mistakes that you're making with the Fury Warrior to help you climb while playing with LFG. So one of the most common mistakes we're going to see with the Fury Warrior is usage of Bladestorm. You can see right off the bat of this game, you want to be using Bladestorm to try and attempt to avoid crowd control. I see far too many warriors using their Bladestorm to zug and do damage. You've got to think of your Bladestorm as an anticipatory attack where you're trying to anticipate a kidney shot, you're trying to anticipate a disarm on yourself, and you want to immune crowd control with it. Once you've gone through that mode, you want to be using your intimidating shout to bait trinkets on enemy attackers during their cooldowns. If they're immune to fear, then obviously it would be a stun instead, and then disarm their trinket. When they're disarmed, you can then just lay in with massive amounts of damage towards them. This rogue in this position has responded with evasion to dodge all of our attacks, and we don't want to lose value on our cooldown, so swapping targets when you know a target is no longer going to be viable is a great way to maximize your damage output, bait cooldowns from multiple targets, and make the match uneasy for your opponents. So definitely don't tunnel vision into immunities. However, as a Fury Warrior, if it was just Iron Bark, staying on that target into Iron Bark still would have been a great idea, so we can maintain our stacks of Slaughterhouse, which we can see are currently at 8 on the Rogue. You do always want to make sure that you're maintaining as much of this as possible. It's the main reason to bring a Fury Warrior into the fray and into the fight. So always stay on one target so long as you can hit it and it's not immune with evasion, divine shield, or blessing or protection, or tranquility bubble or something like this, because you can see the momentum that it's building up, even just from me just staying on the target, building up my rage. And no matter what my paladin's doing that I found from LFG, I just can keep maintaining pressure on the target, and this is how you're going to be able to carry the game. I ended up dropping some rage here and losing my stacks, and watch how quickly all of my momentum is gone as the rogue is going to go back to full HP, and this is really the value of trying to maintain those stacks. Now here you could use Bladestorm to break a route, but because the rogue is already so far away and the druid is so far away, I instead just take the time to use Fleshcraft while I'm unable to attack, and this is something that a lot of warriors don't min-max, is reactivating your Fleshcraft prior to the next engagement, not just using it at the start of the game, but finding a moment in the game to be able to access it to give yourself as much of a shield as you can. It can also be used to avoid crowd control, assuming that you are playing the Soulbind that allows you to do that. However, in this position, with how far away our opponents were getting, I would have rather just gotten the shield so that the next time the rogue opens on me, I'm going to get a bit more of a buffer. We end up getting stunned into a Cyclone, and the enemy team re-stealths, so it makes things a little bit awkward. We need to do our best to keep the druid in combat. We can also use Whirlwind to try and get the rogue out of stealth. Now in this position, I could have used Berserker Rage. Okay, I did actually use Berserker Rage, and I tried to Berserker Rage Bladestorm to pull the rogue out. This is kind of a mistake. The only way that using this would have been good was if Mark for Death had been refreshed on me, which is that red icon we can see right now. If Mark for Death was refreshed, it means that the rogue has 5 combo points accessible, and they could open with Kidney Shot from stealth. So Bladestorming to pull the rogue out and immune that Kidney Shot would be good, but the Mark for Death had already been lingering on me, so it's kind of unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely that he had 5 combo points. So just spamming Whirlwind when you don't know where enemies are is really important. You just want to always be mashing this key, because you might accidentally hit somebody coming a little bit too close to try and sap one of your partners. It can completely dismantle a setup from something like an Assassination Rogue or Subtlety Rogue if you are able to pull them out of stealth. So make sure you're always min-maxing your Whirlwind timings to try and pull enemies out of stealth. And in this position, we're really just waiting for the Shadow Sight Eyes, which, to be honest, in this map, I don't even think I remembered where they spawned. It looks like they spawn really far on the outskirts of the map, but that is something you want to pay attention to when you're fighting stealthies, is these little purple things. You can see it off to the left of the screen here and off to the right in the far corner. When enemies have stealth against you for a really long time, mostly because they're trying to wait for their trinket. You can see the rogue's medallion is coming up in 15 seconds, so by them stalling, they're getting a lot of powerful cooldowns. Now, so are we. I'm getting my medallion back, but in this matchup, our most powerful cooldowns are Divine Shield and Blessing and Protection. We're not going to get those before the rogue gets their medallion, so this trade of kind of just sitting in stealth is really not going our way. So paying attention to Shadow Sight if an enemy team does manage to reset against you like this, and trying to pull them out of stealth is going to be very important. We instead decide to mount up, slowly take to each pillar, and kind of advance towards our target. I think this is where I realized, like, oh, the shadow sight spawns behind me. And this is, again, kind of a video talking about common mistakes. So when enemies reset against you, make sure that you're paying attention to the shadow sight eyes, or this type of situation can occur to you. We end up getting sapped. We don't have Berserker Rage. It's not really a big deal. I'm trying to wait and see if they sap my Paladin, because usually as soon as your partner is crowd controlled, it means they're going to stun you, which means it's a good time to Blade Storm. So instead, in this position, we're just going to use Whirlwind and Consecration, still try and pull the rogue out of stealth, and they're still going to be really annoying about it. I don't know if this team is super tryharding this to get their Druid's trinket back, but that could likely be what they're trying to do. And I think finally our Paladin has been like, all right, we've had enough of this, picks up the shadow sight, and then all of the shenanigans could have been kind of dealt with so much sooner than this had we paid attention to this. Now our main goal is to try and find the rogue again, go after the rogue, but we're going to charge the druid to get combat, start building pressure, break down the fleshcraft, force the rogue to kind of do something in an open, and our paladin manages to find the rogue and pull them out of stealth. Using Hammer of Justice on the DPS when the enemy healer is not crowd controlled is kind of a mistake. It's also equally a mistake for that rogue to use their trinket on that stun that can be dispelled by their healer, and now their rogue has used evasion. So this is a really bad mistake to make in the game, is using your trinket and evasion prior to enemy offensive cooldowns. Now the enemy is going for a vendetta all in on our paladin, so we're going to use intervene to redirect damage, and we're going to want to disarm the rogue on the vendetta. This is why it's very important to save your cooldowns to peel for their cooldowns. But now there's no trinket, there's no evasion. We're going to pop recklessness, conk banner, and we're going to blade storm. And the main thing we're trying to immune here is a disarm or a stun from one of the opponents on our cooldowns so that we get uptime. That is the most important thing, is to try and guarantee uptime as a Fury Warrior. And now we can see they have Iron Bark up, but we don't care. It's not evasion. We can still hit the target. We can still maintain our 8 stacks. This is the main priority, is to just stay on the target, maintain our 8 stacks. We're running Impending Victory. Whenever I'm playing double DPS, I'm playing Impending Victory to gain self-healing so that I can attack into this Thorns, even if my Paladin is not here, and heal myself up quite rapidly, and make sure that you got the conduit for that. So if you're looking to climb the ladder really fast, try and get some rating so you can get your Conquest cap done, make sure you're running double DPS like a Fury Warrior, an Enhanced Shaman, Fury Warrior Rep Paladin. Make sure you're running Impending Victory. It's going to give you a lot of self-sustainability. Now the enemies are trying to reset here. I leaped over the druid to try and get a double fear. We get the double fear. This means the druid can now no longer hear the rogue. Our paladin unfortunately attacks the fear and breaks it. Another big mistake. Try not to break crowd control, although they kind of make up for it by going for a Hammer of Justice afterwards and doing massive damage to the rogue, getting them down to 10%. So now we're in a situation where the enemy rogue has no trinket, enemy druid has no trinket. Really, the next crowd control can win the game. Our paladin, though, is blinded, so we got to stay on target here, try and use Spell Reflect to see the incoming Cyclone. I get fake casted on Spell Reflect, so then I can use my Fleshcraft, and this is what I'm saying. Common mistakes for warriors, not utilizing the Fleshcraft enough. Earlier we used it to try and get a shield to buffer the next engagement. This time around we got outplayed on our Spell Reflect, so we can use the Fleshcraft as a secondary chain to break that crowd control. Another very important component that you're going to want to incorporate into your gameplay as a Fury Warrior. Going to be getting you more uptime, getting you more damage, and getting you more wins. But now we finally managed to reconnect onto the rogue. We're going to disarm the rogue in here, and it's a bit premature. It's mostly because Vendetta is so far away from cooldown, and I want to get some value in between, and I want to stop the rogue from stunning us while we're so close to killing him. So you can think of the disarm offensively, but it is a big risk, and you want to calculate it. So you can see that that disarm stalled the rogue from stunning us for 10 plus seconds, got us to the point where now we have a stun on the druid. Generally, you don't want to CC the healer when both parties can't connect to the target. So here I intervened to the paladin to try and reconnect, but we didn't really get any value from that Hammer of Justice because I wasn't able to get there. It would have been worth it if the rep paladin had cooldowns up and they could solo the target, but usually you'd want to wait at least until your partner has some opportunities to be able to reconnect. So coordinating your crowd control and your uptime is going to be super important, and definitely a common mistake that I see. Here we're using Blade Storm just to break out of crowd control, immune some potential crowd control, and try and reconnect because we have the druid out of mana. We're so close to a win. Rogue still has no trinket. We just really want to maintain uptime and break out of CC. Here Cyclone's being casted, so honestly should have used Spell Reflect here. Not sure what I was doing, but paying attention to enemy casts of crowd control and using preventative measures. In this case, it's going to be your Spell Reflect is like your first line of defense. Secondary, if you're running Stormbolt, could be throwing a Stormbolt out. We're going to leap towards our target, pop Recklessness, reset our rage, and make sure that we're mashing the crap out of Raging Blow. Very important that you're doing this to constantly proc your Recklessness and get massive rage generation so we can keep building our stacks. Now, we see the Druid is drinking in this position, but honestly, we should just go for the kill because our Recklessness is going to guarantee us uptime through Reckless Abandon. We can charge and then have our Raging Blow charge. And this is the position where the Druid now has no trinket. We can continuously get uptime despite the Rogue's best efforts with Soul Shape to keep charging at them with our Raging Blow, and we can get them into execute range. Now, though, they've got evasion at 10%. Unless we can get behind the Rogue, we're not going to do any damage. So instead, I switch my attention to the Druid, again, just to try and maximize our damage and pressure. We get Kidney Shot. In this position, I could have pre-disarmed, but they have Trinket and Vendetta's coming off cooldown, so it's a bit risky to use your disarm offensively in this position. You want to make sure that Vendetta's not available or the enemy cooldown is not available. And now Vendetta's popped. We need to disarm this immediately, use our Impending Victory, and look at the value of Impending Victory right here. We would have died. We're going to heal through it, even though we've been going in this game for some time. Dampening is quite high. That Impending Victory keeps us alive just long enough. We're going to Trinket Cyclone, Rallying Cry, pop our Conch Banner, boost up our Paladin's damage, and try to get a Fear on the Druid in this position would be really optimal because they still have no Trinket, and then hammer down onto the Rogue. Again, big mistake. My partner breaks the Fear. Definitely don't want to be breaking your allies to CC. This is going to be a big mistake that's holding you back, preventing you from climbing and winning games. But in this one, fortunately, we just squeak it out. And this is where emergency use of Ignore Pain is good. When you are about to die, Ignore Pain is a really good button. Definitely a button that you need to be pressing when you're at that critical moment. If I hadn't in this position, I would be dead. We charge to the Druid because I need to make sure I'm maintaining my battle trance. I need a target to hit for my Impending Victory. So you always just want to be keeping uptime on a target. Fury Warrior is a little bit different than something like Armed Warrior or other melee DPS where you kind of want to run away when you're about to die. Fury Warrior wants to just keep going in and keep maintaining all of its regenerative processes like the battle trance and the Impending Victory. So staying offensive in those positions is going to be very important. But this is my kind of initial coverage here for Fury Warrior. I hope that you got something out of this video. It's going to help you out with your gameplay because this is definitely a phenomenal specialization. Super fun to play and definitely one of my favorites. So if you enjoyed this video, you like this type of content, you want to stay up to date with everything World of Warcraft related, then please hit the subscribe button because I will be bringing these guides, news, updates, and changes to you in real time here. And you're going to help me out on my journey to 100,000 subs. So I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.